Please help me welcome to the stage Marianne Williamson. All right. Before we take a seat, I'm going to ask Ms. Williamson one question that I think is very important. And you're going to hear this question a lot tonight. It is, in the first 100 days of your presidency, what can LGBTQ people expect to see happen?
Well, I will speak very loudly. Oh, I'm supposed to tell you? Or, no. I will speak very loudly about the Equality Act. I will speak about banning conversion therapy. I will repeal the ban on transgender in the military. But I will do a whole lot more than that, and I'd like to talk to you right now about what that will be. In order to do that, though, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my own history with what was, for me, when I was a younger woman, called the gay community, today LGBTQIA+. But when I was a younger woman, we were talking about the gay community, we were talking about gay, lesbian, bisexual. And very early in my career, the AIDS community, the AIDS epidemic exploded onto the scene. I was giving lectures in Los Angeles and in New York, and those two cities were very hard hit. I was very active with the AIDS epidemic, and of course we were all very, very aware that the rampant homophobia in this country had a lot to do with the fact that gay people were not being given the services at that time that they needed. I also, after that, I think that I was the only public figure, a straight person who made a lot of noise publicly about being in support of marriage equality, while a lot of people were still saying they were evolving on the issue. But I have seen something that has happened over the last few years that for any of us, we don't have to be LGBTQIA+, just to be American, just to be human, is extremely upsetting. And that is that I have always felt that gay people should have rights in America because we're all Americans. But something darker is going on right now. Right now, I see the LGBTQIA+ community as an at-risk population. And so now, and as president, I see this as a citizen, I feel it as a candidate, and I promise you I will see it as president. This is not just something where you should have equal rights. You should have equal and special protection right now. Something is going on, and it's very dark. And that which is very dark has to do with the great battle of the 21st century. In the great battle of the 21st century, the underlying philosophical and psychic contest has to do with forces of exclusion versus forces of inclusion. And some of us just think this whole diversity thing is so fabulous. Think, wow, it's so cool. Some people are black, some people are brown, some people are white, some people are gay, some people are straight, some people are non-binary, some people are asexual, some people are intersex, some people are fluid, whatever they are. What is it? Some people are Jewish, some people are Muslim, some people are Christian. How cool is this? Some of us think that's like an incredible garden. Some of us think that's an incredible panoply of diversity that will lead to the fullest actualization of what American democracy can be. But some people do not feel that way. Some people find that entire idea as psychically annihilating to their identity. And unfortunately, too many of them are active, too many of them are political, and too many of them are very clear that they will do anything, even at times violent things, to make sure that this diversity is limited. You make me president, I'll have your back. Thank you. Okay.
Great to meet you. Let's have a seat. All right. Well, thank you so much for starting us off that way.
Thank you.
So you mentioned your background. You've done a lot of work in AIDS and HIV work.
Yes, I did.
And when we started this forum, we got a lot of questions. Or my mic is messed up. We got a lot of tweets with people asking about your book, Return to Love. And they were pointing out quotes where you wrote, "We are not punished for our sins, but by our sins. Sickness is not a sign of God's judgment on us, but of our judgment on ourselves." And many have believed that you've suggested that positive thought could help people get through HIV/AIDS diagnosis.
Many people believe that I was saying what?
That you've thought positive thinking could help someone with an HIV diagnosis. So first, I'd love to get your thoughts on these quotes and how your mind and your thinking has changed over the years. And also, I'd love to hear how you plan to end the HIV epidemic.
Well, first of all, my thoughts haven't changed over the years because there's nothing in what you just read that was anything to indicate anything such that if somebody had had positive thoughts, they wouldn't have gotten AIDS. I never said anything like that. There's nothing in my books like that. There's nothing in my experience, and there are many, many people on my website, Marianne 2020, in response to these really vicious smears, I must say. There is a video of some people who were there at the time. My sister had breast cancer. If anyone had suggested that there was some lack of love involved or that her thinking would fix it, that is so anathema to not only anything I've ever believed, but also anything I've ever said. This is what I believed. I believed that with love for each other, we could get through it. And with my behavior, I demonstrated that. I also would like to point out, at the beginning of that epidemic, and for years into it, there was no medicine. There was no medicine. So what I did was I founded an organization called the Los Angeles Center for Living, and then a Manhattan Center for Living, where we had non-medical support services for people with AIDS, basically, mainly AIDS, also other life-challenging illnesses. I noticed one day I walked in and I said, "Where's David? Or where's John?" Because people would come during the day, they wouldn't have to experience the disease alone. They would have food, they could watch movies with people, they could have Reiki, they could have therapy, they could do grief counseling, they got massages, which was a big deal. And I would say, "Where's John?" And they would say, "Well, John isn't here today." I'd say, "Why is John not here?" "Well, he couldn't leave the house today." I'd say, "Well, how's he going to eat?" They'd say, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, we have to have somebody take him food." And there were so many of those cases that then we started an organization that was a project of the LA Center for Living called Project Angel Food, which was a Wheels on Wheels delivery service to homebound people with AIDS. And today it has served over 12 million meals.
Which is amazing.
We just had a 30th anniversary the other night.
That's amazing. So tell us more about, President Trump has put out a plan, or he says he's putting out a plan where he's going to eradicate HIV/AIDS in the next few decades. How do you plan to combat the disease?
Well, in terms of combating the disease, and we want to celebrate, of course, that a lot has been done. I think the main places where we have to worry about AIDS today, mainly, is internationally. And I think in terms of the entire LGBTQ IA plus community, as president, I would be very concerned about this threat, not only domestically, but also internationally. The United States, one of the things that I would wish for, that I would do as president, is to reclaim the moral authority of foreign policy in the United States. One of the things that would be very true when I'd be president is that right now, what President Trump is doing is limiting asylum. Not only would we not be limiting asylum if I'm president, we will be expanding asylum, particularly in the case of LGBTQIA plus people who are in danger all over the world today. And America would would have such open arms, huge open arms. I'm aware of the Rainbow Railroad,
yes.
And I'm so impressed by people here and in Canada who are doing everything possible. The discrimination here, as awful as the discrimination is here, in housing, employment, in health, including, I'm very aware of the fertility issues, the reproductive rights that need to be equal, and I'm also aware of the transgender clinic here in Iowa, in Waterloo, Iowa. So Iowa has a lot to be proud of, actually. But there are people around the world who are very threatened as well and very endangered, and the United States will make a lot of noise about this when I'm president.
All right. Well, we only have a few more minutes with you, and we have a question from the audience. It comes from Dominic Conover, who resides in central Indiana, and I believe is with us tonight. He writes, "During my senior year of high school, my guidance counselor, Shelley Fitzgerald, was fired for being married to a woman she has been committed to for over 23 years. I was punished as a student for starting an organization, Shelley's Voice, to push for LGBTQ plus equality, and I wish during that time I had more people in power pushing for change alongside me. Will you make the commitment now to make protections in place to end LGBTQ plus workplace discrimination in the first 100 days of your office so that students, educators, and all employees can do their jobs without being in fear of losing them or being discriminated against for who they love?"
I absolutely will, and I'll tell you something else. If I had a cabinet secretary who made comments about LGBTQIA plus people on the job, that person will be fired the next day.
So you're saying that with your...
This stuff is very dangerous. You know, I'm Jewish, and on the night of Kristallnacht was the beginning of the Holocaust. It was called Kristallnacht. Hitler didn't just come after the Jews that night. It was the Jewish people and the gay people.
Well, Marianne Williamson, I think we are at time today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Much.
And so sorry that was short.
I appreciate it so much. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay.